I would like us to be present.
Okay, we are live on YouTube.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the October 21st edition of the Washington County, Oregon Committee for Community Involvement, not to be confused with Washington County, Massachusetts, or anything else. We are, you have to be careful when you Google Washington County. Um, I would like to welcome you to the meeting tonight. We are engaging a variety of subjects, and first on the agenda, well, I would like to introduce not only myself. I've been doing this for about
A million years.
eternity, yeah, about 4 years, and about 25 years in the CPO program in general. And I'd like to let Mary Manso, our vice chair, have a moment to introduce herself and say whatever she wants to.
I'm Mary Manso. I am now down in California. And Zoom works here just fine, as long as I can find some place with good internet service. So I am a member of CPO 7, which is the area between, Baseline Road to the south, the Washington County line to the north, Cornelius Pass Road to the west, and CPO 1 to the east. And I've been involved for a while.
Some big sprawling CPO. Let's see, Virginia, why don't you chime in and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Virginia Bruce. I'm the chair of CPO 1, which is Cedar Mill, Cedar Hills, and Bonnie Slope. Whoops, what happened to me? There I am. And I'm speaking from my kitchen tonight because I'm just about to cook us dinner. And I also help get the YouTube recording ready for people who can't attend. And that's about it. We had a very exciting CPO 1 meeting last month, which we'll talk about at the end of the meeting, unless somebody wants to talk about it now.
No.
Okay.
Virginia, have you turned the meeting over back to Ica? Because there's a number of people in the attendees that need to be promoted.
She has control.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And so who would, Mary Lou, we're introducing ourselves.
You're on mute.
Mute.
Now I'm okay, right? Mary Lou Oberson, CPO 1, Tree Keepers.
Okay. Very good. And we have Jill Warren.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jill Warren. I'm vice chair of CPO 4M and have been for several decades. So it's good to be here.
And I believe you could say you had a hand in appealing the development application that resulted in the significant natural resource reappraisal.
Yeah, I was instrumental in doing that, and with ordinances 901 and 902.
We go. Thank you. And Ben, you want to say a few introductory words?
Yeah, Ben Marcotte, CPO 3, Garden Home, Raleigh Hills, and been here a while. Hope to keep being here a while.
You have been. Thank you for your stalwart participation in this. And let's see, Paul.
Just joined, so I'm not quite tuned in yet. I don't have any comment at the moment.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That's nice to know. And and the last person, Stan.
Hey.
Hey.
Garden Home, Raleigh Hills, West Slope area has been stated. We're alive and well.
Cool. And Nancy.
Hi, Nancy Hazelet, Chair CPO 7. Happy to join your meeting and learn, which I always do. Thank you.
Cool. And Ika, would you like to reveal yourself or say hi? You do a lot of behind the scenes work on this meeting.
Ika Falstrom with the Washington County Office of Access and Opportunity.
Very good, thank you. And she runs the technology of the Zoom meeting and then also helps construct minutes. And speaking of that, we should be doing a recording. Are we getting a transcript? There. Welcome all. And tonight is occurs on the occasion of National Community Planning Month. And Teresa Cherniak, the Community Planning Section Manager, has graciously offered to come and tell us what is community planning and why is there a Community Planning Month. So Teresa, you want to take it away?
Great. Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. So it's great to be with you tonight and to see all of you. I don't think it was that long ago that I was here, I think, talking about our work program. Oh, hi, Fran. Um, as you know from your agenda, October is National Community Planning Month, and that's something that the Board of Commissioners acknowledged with a proclamation on October 7th. And Bruce asked me to join you tonight and say a few words about that. So briefly, since 2006, the American Planning Association, which is my professional organization, has encouraged jurisdictions to highlight and celebrate the role that planners do in creating great communities. And when they talk about planners, it means professional planners, planning commissioners, and community planners. So folks in the community that are working on planning for their neighborhoods, for their regions, trying to make a difference and make it a better place. So we do have a little video that will play that the Land Use and Transportation Department put together. And then I'll say a few more words. So Ika, can you cue that up?
Whether we're protecting Washington County's natural resources, preparing growing communities to continue to thrive, or laying out transportation systems and services well into the future, we plan. Before there's an improved roadway, a better community transit route, before there's a new neighborhood,
or pathway or trail, we plan. October is recognized as Community Planning Month. We thank all of our community planners for their dedicated efforts that make Washington County a place we love to call home today and into the future.
Thanks, Ika. And that was a little muddled in the middle there with the housing work that we do. But the person there at the end was Carol Johnson, and she's the Planning and Development Services Manager. So I think some of you have met her, maybe some of you haven't. But she's been great, and she's over actually the three different sections that we would consider under the broad community planning kind of umbrella that is the subject of that proclamation. So they're listed on the agenda, but my section is called community planning. We do all the land use related work and try to keep our plan and development code up to date. We have transportation planning, and they focus more on the broader transportation issues. And then current planning that does the sort of day-to-day development review for proposed developments. So it's about 26 planners plus support staff. And it probably feels like we're mostly reacting to state mandates these days, and I'm sure that you're feeling that way as well. And we are. A lot of what we work on right now is is directed by the state, but they are things that are pretty critical, we think, to community well-being. So one of the really big things is housing, both planning for and increasingly we're needing to help facilitate more housing to be produced. That's at all income levels and serving people at all stages of life. So a lot of the work of my section is focused on that. Another major topic at the state level that does really impact communities is reducing climate impacts through shifting how we're viewing transportation infrastructure. We're trying to provide more options for people to get around in different ways by bike or bus or walking. And gearing up through, you've probably heard of the climate friendly and equitable communities work. So we'll need to do some land use and transportation changes to encourage more compact development and reducing the traffic impacts to our roads. And then another big thing we're working on, state law keeps changing quite a bit in the land use realm. We need to make sure our development code is up to date. It's easy, hopefully will be easier to use and understand and doesn't create barriers to housing development. And I know various of you folks have been involved in meetings about all of these things, the housing, the climate friendly work, and the development code. So those are just a couple examples of the kinds of things that we talk about when we talk about community planning that we're doing right now. Most of you know we have a biannual work program, and I've been here before and talked about that. If you're not familiar with it, please do take a look at our website. We have a lot of information on that, and all of the things that we're working on are about community planning and I think trying to make Washington County a better place to, as we always say, live, work, and play. So I started out by saying that you all are also community planners, and I do really want you to know that we appreciate all that you do as community planners, representing your neighborhoods, bringing your perspectives to the work that we do together. So this month is about you too, and all that you do. And with that, I will wrap up because I know you have Commissioner Snyder here to get into a lot more juicy things probably. But thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Well, thank you very much, Teresa. Anybody have a question you'd like to ask? Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see, we have Fran.
Yeah, a couple of things. We thank you too for doing the work that you do and inviting us in to participate, because we know that we need to put people in planning from the very beginning. My question is, I know that you mentioned the development code, that it's being under review. I know we have representation on the TAC, but I haven't heard much recently, any report outs of, I'm going to say a conference, status update. I would like to find out more about that.
Sure.
Yeah. And also, just for everybody's, I mean, we all know this edification here, but trees have always been a really important part of Washington County in general. And for years and years ago, it was okay to just build what we built, but now we're running out of tree canopy as we build more and more. And so we are very concerned that we think about more equitable, like walkways when we do transportation that accommodate people and trees, because that also creates the climate resilience. So I'm hoping that Washington County will look into that idea of how to incorporate rather than making them mutually exclusive. Again, thank you everybody in your team.
Sure. Thanks, Fran. Just briefly on the CDC assessment or the Community Development Code assessment, we've been a little bit silent because the consultants have been working away on their review. They've taken a deep dive through the whole code, and I think most of you have seen it. It's, I think, about 1,200 pages about 4 inches thick. It's a pretty big document. So they've been diving into it and kind of going section by section and doing an assessment. So we do have a technical advisory committee next week. And Mary Manso is the community representative on that. And we'll be sending out the agenda and a draft document, hopefully the end of tomorrow, if not by Thursday morning, so that people are able to take a look at that beforehand. And that's just a part of the assessment. They'll be continuing to work away, and there'll be then another technical advisory committee where we'll go over the rest of the assessment, probably in January. So it's still going along. It's a lot to plow through.
Okay, well, we will definitely have that on the CCI agenda when after the meeting, the technical advisory meeting. So thank you. Virginia, what do you have?
Sorry. There's been increasing pressure from the state to just build more housing. And while that's been a long time focus in Washington, in urban unincorporated Washington County, I wonder if it's become increasingly difficult for LUT to balance community values and transportation and livability with that increasing pressure on just loads of housing.
I mean, you're right, Virginia. It is a balancing act that I think we need to do. I mean, the housing that will be developed is, we're not changing our zoning or anything. So, I mean, it'll be what has been planned, except for probably the middle housing. And that's one where I think there is probably some more balancing that that we need to think about. But you're right, we're getting a lot of pressure from the state level. There are requirements. There are new housing offices that are watching what we're doing and making sure we're doing all the things that that they've required us to do. So we'll be doing some additional work on the transportation system plan over the next 3 years and trying to work in the climate friendly requirements. And part of that is about walkability and livability in kind of community centers. So I think you'll see some of that happening, but you're absolutely right that housing is the issue of the day. And there's a big push to just get more housing.
And reduce parking excuse me, I just have a little follow on. Reduced parking requirements impacts the neighborhood, and that's something that we keep hearing. And I don't know if there's anything that could be done with that, or whether the county has any power over that, but that's something that we hear from our community.
Yeah, that was part of the climate friendly and equitable communities requirements, and we really don't have much control over that. We have been hearing though that it's hard for developers to get loans on projects that don't have, talking about residential projects that don't have parking. So we're not seeing all parking being eliminated. Parking is still being provided. In some cases at a quite high level. But yeah, that's another one of those things. The state has kind of preempted some local control there.
Well, and that's another subject that will follow us around. I agree that it's creating a suboptimal environment in some ways. Mary, what do you have?
Teresa, thank you for being here tonight. I actually, as a member of the Technical Advisory Committee on the CDC assessment, I was extremely disappointed with the first meeting because it felt like they spent all of their time going over the materials that had already been sent to us. Do you have any idea about whether we're actually going to have an opportunity to have conversations to make recommendations and to advise? Or are we just going to simply get a presentation from the consultants about this is the work we've done?
Well, our hope is that it will be a conversation. We were just talking today about the content of the meeting and how much we thought we could do. And originally it was a bit more packed. So we're trying to maybe reduce the number of things so that we do have the ability to talk about them more. So that is the intent.
And I would really encourage you to let the people on the committee to know that they better come prepared to have read the materials and ready to move forward.
Or else they'll have Mary to deal with.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mary.
That's thank you all for those questions, a little more than I had expected. So let's move along and have our featured speaker now. Commissioner Snyder is rather new to the county, but seems to be hitting the ground running. And so without any further ado, Commissioner Snyder, would you like to take the microphone and introduce yourself and say a few things about where you came from? And then the public participation is writ large. Public participation beyond just this meeting is something that we will begin a conversation with. We won't finish it, I'm sure. So with that, so you ready to take it away?
Well, thank you, Bruce. I appreciate that warm and kind introduction. For everyone who does not know, I'm Jason Snyder, newest member of the County Commission. While I'm new to the county organization, I'm certainly not new to the county. And I've lived in Washington County my entire, basically, adult life, from the moment that I first rented an apartment as an adult out of graduate school. So called Washington County home since 1999, served in a variety of volunteer and public facing roles, starting as a reserve police officer in Tigard in my early years in Tigard, then on the Tigard Budget Committee, then chair of the Budget Committee, a city councilor for many years, council president for a while, and ultimately mayor of Tigard before I became a county commissioner at the beginning of this year. So that's my brief public engagement, mostly. I guess I'll also add that this comes very, like even before all that happened, before I was an adult, I was serving on the school board as a student school board member in the district I grew up in when I was in high school. So this is not, I didn't come to all of this kind of public engagement or public involvement late in life. I've been doing it and advocating even early education policy back in my time as a student school board member. So always been engaged in various ways, and over the last 15-ish years in more of an elected role. And my professional background is actually as a healthcare leader. I'm still a paramedic by clinical training. I haven't done that. You would not want me taking care of you on an ambulance today, unless I got a lot of retraining. So I do still have that background, and my experience as a private sector healthcare leader. So that's me in a nutshell. I certainly can answer more questions if you have them about my background, but hopefully that covers it well. Bruce, is that what you had in mind for my introduction?
We're here and fumbling around, and so yes. And so you mentioned being in a public facing role, and the CPO program is essentially Washington County's only public-facing group. The other boards and commissions that we have, the 30 some odd, all face staff or the commissioners. And one of the things the CPO leaders do is we receive direct input from members of the public. And oftentimes, the members of the public are not particularly happy about something when they get a hold of us. As a matter of fact, it's rather rare to have a member of the community call you up and thank you for something, or just be appreciative, or give you cookies or anything. There's very little um, happiness that comes our way. But I have had multiple opportunities to recall the county commission chair or individual commissioners over the years as a result of somebody having an issue that they bring to us. Um, so the public facing aspect of it, could you say a little bit more about your experiences facing the public? And I guess as commissioner, you are, but what are some of the, uh, uh, how do you get the good out of dealing with the public in light of the fact that a lot of them are angry about something?
Yeah, good question. And I have quite a bit to probably say in multiple domains on this front. One, I think in an elected role and in your roles, listening is really important, and understanding. Oftentimes, I find that not only is listening key, but also trying to understand where someone's question or concern kind of fits in the overall framework of the either governmental or regulatory structure. Usually there's concern in some way, shape, or form that around interacting with those structures, and whether it's, you know, in a department at the county or at a local jurisdiction like a city or special district, or whether it's just for example, the regulatory framework around land use in Oregon, which is really directed, and you all were kind of talking about this earlier. That's all pretty prescriptive and directed by the state, and goes back to the you know, early to mid 1970s. And there's been some modification, but since then. But to a large extent, the current regulatory structure around land use is you know, that old, and for a long time, I think Oregon was viewed as a leader in that space, and I think we still are to some extent. But there's also, you know, life evolves and issues emerge, and you know, that's where leaders need to react, but and take action by listening. So, Bruce, I guess I would summarize this by saying listening more than talking, trying to understand where someone's coming from and understand where their question, issue, or concern kind of engages both the jurisdiction, so that the governmental entity, and also the regulatory framework. And then one of my roles I've felt as an elected official for quite a while is helping get them connected where they need to be, and also helping to explain in more layperson terms, oftentimes, what all the jargon means. Like, I feel like being a translator is a really important role. So when I used to conduct a quasi judicial public hearing at the city of Tigard as mayor, or when I was participating as a city councilor, there's a very prescribed way that not only that proceeding happens, but a very prescriptive set of things that the city council in that case gets to make a decision on. And it is more like a judge, it's not a legislative action necessarily. So it's not about whether you like it or not. It's about the criteria. And so I would coach, for example, and this is why I'm sharing this with you. I would coach people that were about to testify about what kinds of things we could and couldn't consider, so that when they were making their testimony, it was maximally effective. You know, if they're testifying about the criteria and how the project applies to the criteria, then they're on point. If they're telling us they don't like it, that's not a criteria, and that's not going to get considered in that. That's just an example of what I'm talking about when I'm describing like helping people engage with the process or understand what the rules of engagement are. I mean, that's the translation of how state land use law works, right? But for them, that's not necessarily very, it's not welcoming and it's not easy to understand. And so having an elected official or someone in the community who really understands that well, I think goes a long way to translating. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, that does. As a matter of fact, it feels like we're on the same team because we spend a lot of time, uh, considerable time, uh, translating somebody's frustration into where can you go? What department? Is there a contact? Is there a code? And uh, and it's been a while since CPO leadership has been trained as a group in kind of the landscape that would give us give and the new CPO leaders uh, to give them the background they need in order to be efficient with that. Because if you get pulled into somebody's emotional argument, you can spend a lot of time kind of going around when all that you can really do is what are the tell them what the criteria are that they can affect and let them go off on their own. And I've found over the years, the 25 years I've been doing this, that I need to be fairly careful about whose causes I take up because it can be a very uh, time intensive activity. So I appreciate your comments about the how you have to receive what the public brings you and try to make the best use out of it. Um, and we could sure use some training in that. So Mary, what do you have?
So Ruth, are you going to be asking Commissioner Snyder the questions that are listed in the agenda? He's
Well, we
kind of
covered one
touched
of
on
them.
some of those, but you're working on it. Okay, very
Thank
good.
you. Yes. So so the question we were talking about is I wrote in practical terms, how can public participation in county affairs most effectively serve the commission or you? And that I think that was pretty well answered. I would leave
Yeah,
it
I
to you.
feel like I covered that one, but
Yeah,
we
I do
can
too.
talk about it more if you want.
Now, I'm curious. The uh, the commissioners are each assigned adjunct duties, and what boards and commissions are you a member of that you attend?
So that's a long list. I'll try to cover the highlights. I serve on the ODOT Region 1 Area Commission on Transportation.
I was thinking specifically of the boards and commissions that are that face the staff of the county.
The county liaison.
Both of those
role.
questions, both those questions would be good to hear answers of. But the question specifically was, how do you participate in any of the county's boards and commissions?
So ACRE is one, and then the Public Safety Coordinating Council, and there's a juvenile justice subcommittee of that Public Safety Coordinating Council. And I serve on all of those. Trying to think if there's any others. I don't quite think of all of my responsibilities just in the sort of narrow county part of this, but I do think I think that covers the actual county committees.
Well, I think the viewers would be interested in knowing kind of the range and scope of the various committees around the county and the state that you do participate in.
Yeah, so the ODOT Region 1 Area Commission on Transportation, I mentioned that one. I serve on the board of directors officially as the county liaison to the West Side Economic Alliance, the our community action organization. Serve on that board of directors, and the
Is that a county, formal county position on the community action organization?
board. Yeah, we have we assign a commissioner to serve in that role on the board. So it's like a dedicated role.
Does much money flow from the county to community action organization?
I think the short answer to that is yes. They're involved in administering a number of programs that they're better suited and organized to administer. Rental assistance types of programs, lots of different programs.
Yeah, it's a really quite a wide-ranging organization. We're lucky to have it. Let's see.
I also serve on the board of Explore Tualatin Valley, the Washington County Visitors Association. Sorry, I missed that one, but that's another assignment that the board always has someone on that organization's board, and we have direct relationships with these organizations and funding relationships. So that's partly why we are in those roles in an official capacity.
All right. And do you serve on the Washington County Coordinating Committee, or is that?
I do not. I did when I was mayor of Tigard, and that is a transportation coordinating committee primarily, or land use and transportation coordinating committee, and Commissioner Fye is our current representative there.
When you were mayor, did you feel that the inner workings between the county and the cities was productive and fair, or did it seem like something was? I mean, maybe that's putting you on the spot a little bit, but
I don't mind being put on the spot. And I will. I'm a straight shooter, so anything I'm going to say, the county, if I had concerns back then, the county, both electeds and staff would have already known it. In my time as mayor, we had a lot of leaders at the cities that were, I would say, pretty experienced, both on the staff side and on the elected side. That's changed somewhat, the dynamic. A lot of newer mayors with less institutional memory for many of them. And so I'm not sure I'm able to comment about what the current state is. I can tell you when I was mayor, we had a very good working relationship, and I think that even when the cities had concerns, they had a venue to be heard. And frankly, from a numbers perspective, the cities typically got their way, or at least a fair shake, is how I would describe that.
all right. Well, that's good to know. So another question is, in your career, what has been a rewarding example of public participation and what's been disappointing?
I don't know that I would. Do you want me to go to Ayla's question first, or do you want me to answer that?
Sure. Let's take a live question. Ayla? Unmute. You're still muted.
Oops, sorry. I'll just be quick. I was sort of on that topic. So several of the CPOs, including mine, have a liaison established relationship with the city that's in our CPO. In fact, the city council has a member that's assigned to our CPO. So they attend our meetings and we take turns telling each other what's going on. And it's very productive. And we plan on continuing it. There has been some feedback that the current chair of Washington County Commissioners does not necessarily want that kind of a structure. And I just wondered, based on your experience being a mayor, and now a commissioner. What would you think about that?
About what specifically? About having CPOs have a
About
full.
having a liaison, about just as you're assigned to the CP, you're assigned to, the community action organization, as a commissioner, why wouldn't a city council member of a city be assigned to be a liaison to a CPO that they're in?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question, and I think part of that kind of comes to the core of what the sort of CPO, like what the goal of the CPO program and the CCI for that matter are meant to do. If you go back to the history and background, the purpose really for the establishment of these entities or organizations as part of the county were to help the county meet goal one of the Land Conservation and Development Commission's adopted statewide planning goal. And that's pretty specific. And if you think about it in that way, and that's sort of the primary purpose that this all sort of started from, especially in an environment where we may be, trying to work back to make sure that we're sort of fitting in that space for the work. I would say it could be confusing to some extent to have when you're supposed to be getting community or citizen involvement in the county work that's supposed to be being done, having someone from a city sort of officially representing a city position at a citizen participation organization is kind of just at the outset a little bit confusing, or could be, and certainly would require some care to make sure that. I mean, there's just a variety. We could probably talk for 2 hours just on that point, but
Let me just clarify. Let me just clarify that it's more like they also are on the parks committee of the city. They're also on the fire department. They have a person that goes to the fire department meetings. They have one that goes to the school board. So it's not like they're carrying this official capacity, but they're there to listen and share and come back to the city. And so those organizations, including my CPO, could have information for that person to take to the city. Sort of like that. Not this official capacity where there would be a conflict of interest necessarily.
yeah, I mean, many of those other entities you just described are, probably elected boards, and that's a, whether it's going to the fire board or some other, or the school board, unless I'm misunderstanding what you're talking about, those are likely elected roles.
Well,
Yeah.
let me.
That city council person is just going to hear what's going on in the school or in the fire department's, reality, their agenda, just so that they can come back and keep the city informed. Oh, the school is having a special fundraiser, or we're having a fire preparedness event at the fire station. It's congenial sharing of information.
And I would like to amplify what Ayla is saying, that over time, the CPO program has evolved, kind of driven by the fact that we don't have a unitary government. We don't have the city, a city, and the county. We have the county, cities, special service districts of an amazing assortment. And so when you start pulling on one thread, you move from the county to a service district really easily. I mean, Clean Water Services is probably the ultimate example of mixing of roles, where the board is the board of both Clean Water Services and the county. But the CPOs have start off all of our meetings with service provider reports. So we have the sheriff, we have TVFNR, but if you're out in Forest Grove, you don't have TVFNR, you have the Forest Grove Fire Department. So if you want to know who's going to be providing fire and rescue, you need to go to that group. And so it's a very richly interconnected world. And in some ways, CPO members know more about the service district's activities than they do about the county's activities, because they use us to have a dialogue, to do a presentation, and then get information. And there aren't any county departments that regularly do the same thing. And so school boards come in, we have them, whatever CPO, you have the associated school board. So the original intent to advise the county commissioners has been expanded on over the years just by the nature of the unique form of governance that we have in Washington County and with Metro, the Metro regional area. So with that, Virginia, what do you have?
Well, I have questions, but I wonder if it isn't a better idea to go through the questions that were originally put together by CCI and then open it up rather than having us drift off with each individual member's priority.
We've pretty much covered the questions. A rewarding example and a disappointing example was the last question, and
I guess I didn't fully answer that. I'm happy to answer the disappointing and the I think there's tremendous opportunity, and frankly, I think some of my most favorite times serving as an elected official is when I've been able to help solve either moderate to big problems by being a good listener and being a creative problem solver and or connecting people in communities. And also sometimes I've had to be the person that is looking out for the person or the group that doesn't have a voice or isn't able to be at the table. I can remember a time in a public-ish setting during COVID when a bunch of downtown business owners in Tigard were at a meeting we were holding outside to talk about their concerns about houselessness. And they tried to tell me that houseless folks in our community were not members of our community and that they were offended that I referred to them as such. And I wasn't going to stand for that. Like, that to me is an educational moment and opportunity when I was mayor to say, time out. We're going to talk about that for a moment and get on the same page. And I'm not going to continue a conversation about whether these are people or about whether there are community members. So to me, those are the good kinds of things. I could give you lots of examples of problem solving and or trying to help get things on the right track, or even large public engagement processes that I led or designed, including the very thorough review of the Tigard Police Department's practices after the murder of George Floyd that actually won a Good Governance Award from the League of Oregon Cities a couple years later. That was a process that I had there very rarely can I say that wouldn't have happened without me, but I can say that wouldn't have happened without me. 90% of it was designed by me while driving to a family trip in Montana and my wife taking notes while we drove for 10 hours. I mean, that was how that got designed initially. So that's good. I don't know that I have bad examples of, I guess Bruce, I don't know how you pose that, but I don't know that I have
disappointing. Disappointing.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
I tried to make sure I wasn't participating. I've certainly seen disappointing engagements, but I've tried to make sure I'm I'm not involved in the setup or participation in those, because I feel like I would, and I have stopped or redirected them when I see them kind of going or headed in the wrong direction or not set up for success. If you've got an overly ambitious agenda, you don't have the right people at the table, you don't all have clear or common expectations about what you're going to discuss or achieve in a conversation, those are all setups for disappointment and failure in a community conversation. And I tried to make sure, at least while I was involved, that didn't happen.
Well, that is really affirming to hear. Don't set yourself up for failure. There you go. So that is, and so so Virginia.
Yeah, I did have a question. I'm a big fan of representative democracy. And I wonder how much of your job you see as representing your district and how much of it is just paying attention to the entire county. My follow-up question, which isn't a follow-up question at all, is about the History Museum. But particularly, I'm interested in your views about representative democracy and Washington County.
Well, I think that, we serve and make decisions for the county as a whole. And that's how I view the role. For me, it's an easy transition. I have never served in a district kind of format before. The city of Tigard's city councilors were all elected at large, and I frankly think that that's probably the most functional, because it does not create the, this is my district, this is your district. There is some benefit to having me, for example, be able to have a more formal or direct relationship with the mayors and the city councilors in my district and connecting with the community leaders and better understanding the dynamics within District 3. But that's not how I make decisions. And I don't think that's the right way to make decisions when you're in serving in this type of a role in a representative democracy. I don't view my decisions as being for District 3. I view them as being for Washington County and doing what's best for doing the most good for the most people in the county. And that's how I make decisions and frankly, again, paying attention to the people that in particular don't have a voice, aren't at the table, or can't speak up. And that is also for me, an important view and lens that I am always applying to my decision making. And I did that in my time as mayor as well.
Very good. Mary.
Commissioner Snyder, thank you for being here tonight.
You bet.
And I am really interested in the seat at the table issue as modernization for the CPO program is moving forward. Many of us that are longtime volunteers are very disappointed that we don't have a seat at the table. It's like OAO is off in the corner making decisions, and it's like, no, we can't share the information with you because we need to go to the board first. And we are so concerned that OAO, that doesn't understand the CPO program, is trying to build a program that they have no idea what we are trying to do as CPO leaders. Any thoughts about how we can better participate as CCI members in the process?
Well, I think that the commission provided direction and made requests of our staff around trying to gather information and move forward with some sort of a process or proposal after gathering a lot of input. And my understanding, without getting into a ton of the detail, is that there's been a lot of venue and opportunity to provide input through the modernization discussions. And I guess what I'm hearing you say is that you don't feel like that's been effective. I mean, there's been
absolutely. We have not, we've just kind of been thrown in the bucket with Tom, Dick, and Harry that are saying, ooh, citizen involvement, that sounds like a good plan, without them really understanding what it takes to build a program.
So your perspective, your perspective is that the CPO and CCI members should have had their own specific input process, not just the online community survey, the various presentations, the listening sessions, et cetera? I just want to make sure
Absolutely.
I'm clarifying. Okay.
Absolutely. And we went through a really long process back when OSU turned the program over to the county. We met for months, and there was actually a very detailed plan for how we should move forward. And OAO is just kind of taking that, oh, that's old. We can't use that. And
well, to be fair, we don't know. We don't know. There has not been, in the 10 years since that plan was put forth, there's been a number of starts, but no actual completion of any of the outreach. And I think that we have one sort of ongoing effort now that ICA is leading, and we will have something to respond to. But it has been, like Mary said, we've been kind of in the dark as to what's going on, and we've, as the CCI, have sent in a variety of comments on the modernization program and have not really had any engagement in discussing those ideas. You might recall that we sent in the executive summary for our analysis. And
Bruce, those were received by staff though, correct?
No, we sent them to you. Our commissioners received those as well.
Okay, I'm just making sure they went to the team that's collating
yeah. But I think that you will find that there is a sort of through line of frustration in, first of all, we had the re-envisioning process, and then that got canceled, got changed into the modernization process. And so we've had different administrators in the equity department make several attempts, and nothing has really come out of it that is very satisfying in terms of something to engage. Now, the county did engage with the CCI, creating a service level agreement. And so we know what it's like to negotiate with the county to create a mutually acceptable agreement on what we're going to do. And as chair, I will say that we look forward to having that same process in modernizing the CPO program. There is no one single purpose at this point of the CPO program unless we choose to reduce it back. There is a variety of things that the CPO program does, and I think that discussing that would go a long ways towards alleviating the concerns that something is being missed or misplayed or misunderstood.
Yeah, if I could interject for a second.
Please do.
Bruce is giving us all a pretty good idea of some of the history here. What we're saying, Jason, is that for at least 10 years, we have been going through this self-examination with various staff groups at Washington County. Bruce alluded to the fact that we finally, after 3 years, had developed a service level agreement, but then that service level agreement, meaning how much clerical or support do we need, what is our contribution, et cetera. And that nothing ever came of that.
Came of what?
Just a second, if I finish, Bruce.
I didn't understand.
We also started with the whole CPO program from the state says that our value add to Washington County is understanding the land use laws and helping to explain those land use laws to our neighbors, and then getting the feedback from the neighbors about what is it that they are most care about. And then we would provide that feedback to the commissioners and planning to help guide them so that they don't have later litigation, et cetera. We reduce a number of calls on LUT. All that, there is a value add there. And it's the same crew here that's been working on this stuff for 10 years about the self-examination. But many of us have been studying the land use laws for 25 years. They're very complex here, and it's not easy. And we feel that we've been taking a burden off of LUT and the commissioners and the county council by doing this explanation to neighbors at their local level. But as Mary says, all we've been seeing now is less and less service and less recognition to the point of we're getting frustrated that we can't really deliver what we originally was our mission statement and our value add. So that's kind of the history here.
Yeah, and Fran, I think you're describing the experience in many departments throughout the county, frankly, with our uh, continually eroding budget and services in virtually every area. We have, I would say, people frustrated in virtually every department that we deliver services in, where the services that were offered a year ago are less than they were the year before, and that's been true for many, many years. And I think you are this coming year is going to be more challenging than last year. So
Yeah.
there is
Please
not.
understand, we're not asking for more services. I'm sorry, but just make sure we understand what we're really upset at this point is we understand the diminishing services, but then we don't have the seat at the table to, we're a lot of volunteers, but a lot of volunteer hours, and nobody's taking advantage of that at the county. That's kind of, I think, what the volunteers here are saying.
And I think the modernization project in part is a discussion about what the future role of this structure is for advising the county and the commission. I mean, I think that is much of this stuff was set up in the early 80s and hasn't really been meaningfully reevaluated or acted on by the commission in a very long time.
It's true.
Just want to jump in quickly. We had a situation at CPO1 for our October meeting where we had arranged with someone from the sheriff's department and someone from the library to provide brief updates on the levies, because we didn't want to make our members have to go to other meetings. We wanted to bring that information to our members during our meeting. And apparently, Housing and Human Services told our administrator that they didn't want that at our meeting, and we were told that we couldn't have it. And we had to go through all sorts of channels to get that reversed, to bring 5-minute updates to our members about the levies. And the reasons that we were given were stupid and ridiculous. And we ended up having to take our plea to the administration of the county and to our county commissioner. And we finally got the chance to offer that information to our members. But when our autonomy is just completely snatched away from us, it doesn't make us want to continue to volunteer. And I'm sorry, I just needed to jump in and let you know about that.
Thank you.
I could piggyback onto that. I started the first CPO, let's see, probably in the 80s, when the county thought they'd put a dump on top of a mountain and everything drained down into the Class 1 stream of the East Fork of Dairy Creek. So every once in a while, we know the county makes bad decisions. And that's part of why we exist, is to pay attention, and we are advocates for our environment. And that includes trees, streams, healthy farms, keeping our soils that we need to grow food and feed our animals. There's a whole lot of stuff. And quite frankly, the rural areas are just diminishing in any kind of representation at all. The bottom line here is that the CPO used to create their definition of why they existed, and that's how we reached out to the county. We were the voice of the people, and the county needed to pay attention and listen. Now it's the county creating their narrative under their new terms of citizen involvement or modernization, whatever the flavor of the week is. And we don't need that, Jason. What we need is to have a work session all in person with the commissioners, with land use. We need to be humans together in a room, hammering this out for a change, instead of people just giving us a narrative coming from the county that we are supposed to preach. For example, if you told me I couldn't have that library and sheriff person there to talk at my CPO, I would flip my lid. How dare you tell me I can't have those people? So,
Ayla,
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
and that's the control that it is about the city too. You don't want us to talk to our city people? Come on. That's not for the county to tell us what to do.
well,
I'm sorry.
this is an interesting dynamic and an interesting conversation because the
Mhm.
original genesis of the program is set up and advise as advisory to the county and to county staff. What I just heard you describe might be an organization that you want to set up and run and have function and invite guests to, but may not be at the direction or serving a specific county purpose.
Well,
And so
because we were under the when we were under the university, Jason, there was no conflict of interest. And the more and more we come to these new places of meeting, we are turning into a conflict of interest here. The county does not tell CPO what to do. You're supposed to help us with our announcements of meetings. You know, I love the fact that you put out that CPO's having a Firewise presentation. Tell all your other CPOs in case they want to come. You guys are helping us connect and be a group of folks, but it's not for you to tell me what I have at my meetings. I'm willing to do public, meeting laws and some of that stuff for liability, but the topics are ours to choose. And we need immediate notification by the land use people within 48 hours of when an application comes across their desk so we can follow all these public rules and notifications. So some of that is quite okay to follow, but not for
Okay, so
it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear to me why there's some conflict here, though. I mean, as I listen to that.
Is and our meetings. No, that's yes, there is.
So why don't we just sort of file that away for thinking? I want to hear what Stan has to say.
Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate the conversation that is happening tonight. This has been a very long conversation that we've had since our blessed time with the university went away. The differences keep eroding, and they haven't stopped. And I used to really like being a part of the CCI and my particular CPO area, and this is becoming numbing. And it's because it used to be a two-way street. It used to be a partnership, and it is degraded to the point of where why would anybody here or anyone in the future ever want to be trying to help our county be a better place? And that is what concerns me, is the numbing down of this process. And I don't know where or who or what is causing this, but this is the worst way and direction we should be headed in. The people are the people. And I just wish the people in charge, the electeds, the hireds, would understand we add value every day in every way without fail.
Okay, thank you. We do add value. As we did a little computation and determined that CPO leaders collectively contribute two full-time employee equivalent of volunteer work for the county. So you get two full-time employees worth of activity out of us. The county.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's frightening when you add up how much time the CCI chair has to spend just keeping the ship going in the right direction, in a direction. So Nancy, what do you have?
First, I just want to say thank you, Commissioner Snyder, for participating tonight. This is your input is very helpful. I am currently the chair of CPO 7, and I've been doing this for, I think, a year and a half, and I sort of fell into the role. I had no idea what the commitment entailed. But I enjoy it because it's part of community engagement, and that's always been very important to me. I enjoyed when you said that your role as has that you enjoyed your role where you were explaining, informing, and translating to help people understand. And that's precisely what I see as the role of the CPOs. And sometimes it's hard even to hear people's questions because they don't want to go to the county to talk to somebody. They want to talk to a neighbor. And when you can help them translate that question and that information to a county commissioner or a county board or an agency, I think that's very helpful. I think that the county will lose something very important if it reduces the amount of community engagement that the CPOs are able to engage in. I think you lose that person to person, and the decisions that are made by the county after that are not oriented towards what the people want as much as they should be. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, Mary, what do you got?
I've always viewed my role as a CPO leader as someone to listen to help identify problems that are out in the community and to work towards solutions. And I see the program as it's being pushed by the county at this point to not have leaders doing that, but instead to have the leaders put out the county's narrative. And for example, we've had two events happen in our CPO. The CAT Center and the Transitional Housing Facility are both in CPO 7. And we reached out to both organizations, or Health and Human Services, both times, and they were very, very resistant to coming to our meeting. And it was like, well, you can just read about it on the county website. That's, where all the information is. And it's like they don't seem to understand that we are there to help try to diffuse the situation. And by getting the information out to the community, we can help calm the community down. But a lot of times the community is just starved for information, and they're starved for having their questions answered. You don't get questions answered by reading a website. So it's as I think it was Isla said, what we're asking as CPO leaders is to actually sit down at the table with OAO, with other county staff. I don't know if it's the commissioners, but we need to have a conversation about where we want to see this headed. And if the county decides that all they want us to be is an opportunity for the community to come together so the county can do their presentation, I don't think any of us in this room want to be part of that program.
This is a strong statement.
I appreciate hearing the feedback.
Virginia.
Technically, Commissioner Snyder, you are correct from a historical point of view that the CPOs were created to look at land use. But land use has quality of life implications. And as in particular CPO1 has become developed, we have fewer and fewer burning land use issues. And so we've expanded our purview a little bit to serve our neighbors so that they come to the meetings and so that they are able to hear about land use issues and other quality of life issues that there is no other forum in the county to bring neighbors together to help solve problems, and where experienced community members can guide our neighbors to solutions and to understanding how the county works. And I mean, it's kind of an ongoing debate within the CPO system as to whether we should simply focus on land use. But land use has implications for all sorts of quality of life issues for our neighbors. And I invite you to consider that by simply focusing on land use, you devalue the value of CPO volunteers as a conduit between county government and the neighbors. We've had experience in our neighborhoods. We know what's going on. We know how the county works. We can point people in the right direction. We can defuse some of the anger so that it doesn't land in your lap. And I really encourage you to broaden your view that we provide, as Bruce says, countless hours of service to the county and service to the commissioners and service to the agencies in bringing an understanding among our neighbors to how the county works.
Well, I want to make sure you understand. I was describing what the historical sort of factual basis for this is, not necessarily my opinion about how. I mean, I was 5 years old when this was established. So I didn't have a lot to do with the design, but I do think it's important to understand the sort of the history to some extent and what the purpose and establishment of the program originally was, in particular, because when we're in a very constrained budget environment and we're trying to figure out where very small amounts of resources are devoted, and we're also trying to figure out, what is the next sort of version of community engagement look like at the county. Knowing that history is somewhat important to the conversation. It's not the only thing, but it's an important component.
We love that history, and we do study that history, but narrowly interpreting our function as totally about land use doesn't do it justice.
Well, and I think that the ordinance 8658 that expanded the view of or the purview of the CPO program it doesn't sound so. That ordinance defined the CPO program as we are running it. And if you also look at the CCI bylaws, there are things in the bylaws that were approved by the county that the county does not engage us in doing. We are supposed to review public engagement plans as per our bylaws, but that's not something that has ever been asked of us, frankly. And so the ordinance 8658 puts livability issues in, quality of life, livability, that is our purview. And it's important because there is no single governmental agency that citizens can go to. So we provide that for all of them. So I don't know if you've brushed up on 8658 recently, but I think that would be would be reassuring to know that you were somewhat familiar with it as the modernization program goes on.
No,
So,
I absolutely am. I still think the conversation that is going to be continue to be happening. I mean, that's nearly 40 years old, right? At this
yeah,
point,
yeah.
the conversation that's going to be happening is about what is a 2025, 2026 community engagement model in Washington County, which is now, quadrupled in population over that time. Many things have changed. Many more people live in cities than they did, from a engagement perspective, but there's also a lot more urban unincorporated area where also many people are living, and that's a structure that I think is, to some extent creates some challenges here because in a lot of settings, you would use the structures in a city to do a lot of the kinds of things and the kind of urban engagement that you all are describing. So I find that to be the gift that keeps on giving is the urban unincorporated areas.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a strange beast. So, Ayla.
Yeah, I just would like to add to the conversation that the new word, Jason, for us is livability. So all things considered in our land use purview is it making the environment where we are livable? Are we improving all of that? And that includes our historical heritage. And we talk about CPO being, goal 1, citizen involvement, but we are also goal 5. And we want to take that and make it very clear that we want to see the historical overlays. We want to have discussions about trees and, everything else that helps us have a balance in our developing communities. You can put all the new stuff you want in there, but we want to hang on to our culture and our heritage and have common sense. And when there are significant natural resources amongst the houses, the county needs to listen to us because we know first. And we are the best bang for the county's buck you could ever get. CPOs serve the county for free. But we need to be listened to as an important entity that really consolidates a lot of things. My water presentation at my CPO helped alleviate a lot of crazy questions and fears about the water resources and banks. My FireWise event from the fire district and the school and the city that all came and talked to us about emergency preparedness turned into helping create a FireWise community. So we do things like this that are really important, Jason. And I don't think there's an ear in our entire administration of our office that hears any of it. It's not even on their agenda. I'm sorry. It's about accessibility and opportunity. What kind of word salad is that? And now we can't say DEI, but we're not going to change it to new words. This has nothing to do with, no, I'm just saying this has nothing to do with what we really do. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for the feedback.
Okay, Fran?
Yeah, as I'm sitting listening to this, I'm thinking, my background is in finance also, Jason, and I'm thinking about I'm not sure that we've ever taken the look at the gaps and overlaps in a number of different organizations, support organizations within Washington County. So you mentioned ACRE, we have the community engagement, which comes in different flavors, and then we have the CPO program. I don't know that we've looked at what things do each of these different organizations cover and then prioritize that to a critical mass and then figure out which organizations have the bang for the buck or deliver the key results that the county and our communities both need. And we're thinking we really want to be helpful. But please understand that we're not about criticizing. We're trying to figure out how can we be the best value add for the community and for Washington County. And if we maybe took that kind of a look, because I think we feel like it's always been done in isolation. And so maybe we can help to do that. And we've got a lot of finance and land use law, a lot of expertise that could help sit down and do something that way. And you're going to get it pro bono. But I think there are a number of us who are pretty much pragmatic and want to be in this partnership. And I think that's what you're hearing here is that how can we best serve both? And whether it's realigning how we do these CPOs and maybe we have to have a separate, neighborhood thing separate from the land use. I don't know what that looks like. I know that I'm now working with the Beaverton Next on something magnificent we're doing in Beaverton, my group, but maybe we can do the different models, but that's just my suggestion I hear about the purse strings being tight and it's going to get tighter. And let's figure out a solution space. That's really what we're suggesting here.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the community engagement needs are different than they were in 1986. So I hear you all describing how some things have evolved. I hear you referencing when the OSU Extension Service was managing a lot of the support that you felt like things were better at that time, and that may have been true from all of your perspectives. I'm not sure that necessarily the county needs, from the county's perspective, were necessarily being served better. They may have been met, but I don't know that they were being served better necessarily during that time. And I'm meaning that from the county organization, not from the county as a whole. So I want to be clear about that. But I think we're in a moment in the next 6 months to a year where I do think this is going to be rethought. There's I think a session scheduled for the commission to have a discussion about this is it in December, early December, or I think that's when it is. Yeah.
So one of the things that was true with the Extension Service, which is an educational arm of Oregon State, was that educating people was a priority for the CPO program. And that has kind of diminished as the county administration office took over running the program. And we used to have more education for both the leadership and for people than we do now. And so that
I mean,
shift,
given that the OSU Extension Office was running it, I am not surprised by that at all.
yeah,
That is like their core, that's their core thing.
it is. It is. And it's necessary to have an educated population so that they can make useful comments and contributions. Because the less educated you are, the more emotion you get, and they want things that aren't actionable. There's no criteria for making decisions that they bring. So I think that would be a good place for our questions and dialogues for this evening to conclude. I would like to give Commissioner Snyder an opportunity to make any closing remarks that you would like to make. I appreciate your time here.
I wonder if we could get a quick comment from him about the History Museum, because I know he's been engaged in that topic and I don't want to let it slide.
I'm happy to talk briefly about that. Let me thank you all first for your engaging discussion and participation, and frankly support for the county for many of you for many decades. And I appreciate on a deep level the commitment that you all have and the time that you've spent making our county a better place. And so thank you for that. On the museum topic, what specifically, just so I'm clear, what would you like to kind of know what my what my own personal thoughts are at this point. I've said them in an open meeting, but is that
Yeah.
what you would like to hear, or what
I'd
what
like
would you
that.
like to
I
hear?
don't think everybody in the room here
Okay.
has listened to that work session. And I did appreciate your comments. I thought you were, I mean, one of the least dismissive in terms of valuing the cultural history of Washington County.
So I think
I did know that.
Oh.
Did know that.
So I think this is this is obviously a challenging situation in part because of just the size of the collection, what's in the collection, who potentially has ownership or claims to ownership. The records, the county has a specific statutory responsibility around maintaining records. And so there's a fairly significant question about what that is there is considered a record that needs to be maintained from the county's perspective. And then I'd like to see, us try to figure out how to, on an affordable basis, try to allow access to the information and materials, even if it's, somewhat limited. And I think that some of our staff lead on this, from the Assessment and Taxation Division, Joe Nelson, tried to propose a path forward that maybe solved some other county problems while also allowing some access. No matter what it's going to cost, it's going to cost quite a bit of money to do anything, whether it's even just dispersing the collection properly. And in that proposal, there were two different, there was the do it correctly or do it on a budget. And I don't think the do it on a budget is an acceptable, given what's there. I don't think that's an acceptable process. And frankly, I don't think that's in the public's best interest. So I think we have to figure out how to at least get the public some access. I don't think it's going to look like it did before. I don't think there's going to be money to operate it like it was operated before. And we're seeing, tightening budget environments for everything. So unless one of the few billionaires that lives in Oregon decides they want to come endow the museum, I don't see that happening. I did say that during a work session. I don't think it would take an obscene amount of money to make that happen. I think it would be, somewhere in the 20 to $30 million range to endow the operations permanently. And that might be a nice legacy for one of the billionaires.
We agree. And when we see the county spending millions on baseball and nothing to preserve the county's heritage, it's very discouraging.
Yeah, I would say one of the bigger frustrations of being in elected office is having to deal with the restrictions that are in place on much of our money, and the fact that we can have $8 million to spend on baseball because that money can't be spent on most other things that many of us might view as more important, but that's not how restricted funds work in government anywhere, and particularly in Oregon. So I literally had the Washington County Police Officers Association make the exact same comparison a year ago. And they were super frustrated. And I'm like, well, it's illegal to use the money to do the things you just proposed. So that's one problem, just at the outset. And so it's a challenge. It's also a challenge to explain to people. You all can help with that. Ayla?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for speaking out and being there.
Once again, I did watch, I was at the work session, and I really appreciated your efforts to bring everybody to the same option 4 as the best option. And I am waiting to hear the reworking of those figures that Commissioner Willie asked for. And I hope that's come to you folks by now, because it was going to be much less expensive, it sounds like. I'm no accountant, that's for sure, but it's nice to have somebody that understands that budgeting process that could have said, let's relook at this. And I do believe that we have, once again, a treasure chest of volunteers to help with this endeavor. And we don't need a one-time try to sell it, then bag it and ship it out to the garbage. And I'm glad that there was no other support for Commissioner Harrington's position on that. So thank you. And I look forward to the next meeting or next work session. And once again, being involved with the Historical Society of Washington County, I hope that we can meet you all in person again and have conversation, not have to bring it to a commissioner meeting and get 3 or 5 minutes to talk to y'all. We need to sit down again, just like CPO folks need to sit down and talk to y'all. We need to have a more informal, comprehensive, synergistic meeting with you guys.
You
We'll
understand
bring lunch.
you understand the commission can't function like that, right? I mean, that's not legal either. Just so you
Well, if
understand,
it's a
Ayla.
problem, if it's to be a quorum, then, you guys decide who's going to represent you folks. But we need to sit down as a group. We have big, large rooms that we've paid out of our tax dollars, that we can sit down at the Brookwood Library or someplace that holds 200 or 300 people if we need to. Let's talk about it. Let's really get something going here where we have dialogue instead of, some written testimony.
I think that the conversation is between the CPOs and staff bringing the elected ins when there is some kind of collective understanding.
Like we were supposed to have an in-person meeting about the word modernization. That was months and months and months ago. We have never seen that meeting.
Well, the whole modernization program got set back.
It sure did.
And there is a December work session, I believe, where that's going to be the subject. And as frustrating as it is, that is the schedule that we're on. And I would have liked some of this to be wrapped up years ago, but it's not. And so here we are. We're still coming at it with hopeful, positive intent that we'll be able to create a system that serves Washington County residents and Washington County government. And
all
everybody,
CPOs are invited to this December meeting?
well, this is a work session.
Work session for who?
Work session, Commissioner Snyder mentioned that the modernization program will be discussed in a December work session meeting with the county commissioners. I believe that is the schedule.
Just with the commissioners. Okay.
That's December 2nd.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
By the by, Commissioner Snyder, if there's any information or data that the CPOs might be able to supply that might help in making a more effective decision making, please feel free to call upon us. We're more than happy to compile whatever is needed to help you give you a more informed decision point.
Thank you for that offer. I will make sure that's noted. And if we have questions, or I have questions, I'll make sure we get that out to you.
Would you like to have your final remark?
I thought that was my thank you to all of you for your participation a bit ago. So I don't have.
Well, that's very good. Well, we'll take it at that, and with great appreciation for you coming tonight and talking and sharing and listening and kind of bringing us along with some of your thinking. I think that it's been a very productive meeting, and I appreciate it very much.
You bet.
Thank you for listening.
You bet. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thanks. Okay. Okay. There's that. Now,
Stanley, how do you make those fireworks go off behind you? That was cool. How do you do that?
Was that me?
Stanley makes fireworks behind him. Isn't that cool? I want that.
I'm magical.
Oh, there you go.
And I have wands.
Lucy's not
I'll be-
flying a jet.
I'll be sure to have Kilauea behind me when I, our next meeting live.
Okay, so what subcommittee wants to have the talking stick? Okay, Mary. Are you gonna unmute?
I recommend we create a new subcommittee that deals with evaluating citizen engagement. Because Washington County never assigns things to us, I think we should, at this point, take events that have happened that we feel that we can evaluate after the fact and give them scorecards on how they failed to actually do adequate citizen engagement.
So
Great
let me
job.
take it one step. This should be an agenda item in every meeting we have.
What, to assess public involvement?
Yes.
And I think we have some historical
We need to
documents
be
we
the
could work from.
graders. We need to be the ones that determine, and then we need to come to a consensus as far as how and what we can do better to improve upon this.
And the question is, you know, how do you select a project? When is a good time to select a project? Is it too early to evaluate the engagement process for modernization? Is it, you know, both the CAT and the transitional housing, you know, are those both projects that we could evaluate at this point?
You know, one that comes to my mind that I think is really rich is North Plains.
Oh,
and
yeah,
the referendum.
yeah.
I think it has so many levels where, you know, you have Catherine Harrington threatening them on a screen at their meeting to, you know, other things that were more properly worked out. You know, I think it's a huge one that's in our recent past.
Do we know if there's an internal document that they use when they have established a citizen involvement project?
County?
Yeah, they mean the county.
I don't think there was anything other than them telling CPO8 that they were out of line and that they
Yeah,
were.
no, I'm talking about that. I'm talking about, you know, if they set up a LUT open house for a road project. I know there was.
Can I take the action item to consult with LUT in particular to find out what products are used to help them manage their community involvement?
Yeah.
And then I can compare that with the two DLCD products, meaning the Equitable Engagement Toolkit, and also putting people in planning, which are the two major guidelines from the state.
You sure can take it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And it makes sense because then I can use that and when we go to LCDC if we need to.
Fran can do anything. She can do everything.
This, you know, the CIAC, the LCDC's Community Involvement Advisory Committee, is taking a long time to address issues that we are being confronted with in the modernization program. And I'd sure like CIAC to pay attention to what's going on in Washington County as some field work for whatever changes they come up with for the recommendations for public involvement programs.
Yeah, Bruce has been really great in speaking more than once at the SIAC, and I've raised the issue about Washington County multiple times, and I can't get them to pay attention per se. But I'll make that a point in the next meeting.
Good. Well,
That Hillary Foote, is that Hillary Foote? Who in particular is it that's
Okay, so the facilitator for the SIAC is Sadie
Yeah.
I have more, I've been getting more and more access in LCDC through the SIAC. So I will find out, again, we just keep pushing it. There is a goal one, there is a work plan to review the whole goal one program. So, and goal five. But again, it keeps getting put on the back burner, and we're hoping January is the next meeting of the LCDC, and we'll find out whether they will authorize funding for that.
It's a
But meanwhile, we
long,
have some existing products that we need to look at, and Mary brought up a good point.
it's a long
Any more
game.
subcommittee reports?
Well, Paul has his hand up. Paul does
We
not
can't
have
hear
his
you,
hand up.
Paul. We can't hear
He's
you.
not muted, but we can't hear you. Is your mic engaged? You're not showing up as muted, but we're not hearing you. Go into Zoom settings and look at your audio.
Okay, so let's have a communication subcommittee.
We haven't been meeting. There's just so much uncertainty about what's going on that it almost feels futile.
Okay, well, that certainly is a report.
That's our report.
Anybody have anything to say about the SNR component of land use?
Well, I was at the last meeting, but I'm not very good at reporting without the notes. I
Okay.
depend on Jim to have the notes.
So
which
any
not
particularly
here.
significant
Well, we
breakthroughs?
usually go over a list of the animals and so forth that everybody has seen lately.
Yeah.
We seem to touch upon wetlands because we're always worried about encroachment on wetlands because they seem to disappear in Washington County faster than we can keep on top of them. And of course, the same with significant natural resources um, in development lands. And I personally follow development everywhere that I can. And yeah, I depend on Virginia because she publishes a lot in the Cedar Mill News plus the CPO1 information. So that's very helpful to keep on top of that. Um, we're always trying to find developers that look outside the box when they want to develop because we're just so tired of losing the tree canopy. It's just, I know that we need housing. We all know we need housing, but if you keep building tight and not have any room for any trees at all, you're just creating these heat islands, which are just awful.
What kind of world are you creating?
I know that's the livability thing again. It's like, come on, okay, so we can pack people in apartments, 5 or 6 stories high and buildings right next door to each other, like they are out there on Murray Boulevard. And it's like we're out on Roy Rogers, but
Popular all over.
it's not, yeah, it's like who wants to live there?
Yeah, that's what my geography teacher asked. Fran.
Yeah, so two other items. First of all, the SNR subcommittee met, but the land use side of it did not show up, or maybe that's a plan. And so Jim put out, there's a document talking about what the roles of the two different groups are, or whatever it is. So we're reviewing that document. That was one thing. The other thing that came up was heritage trees. And in particular, I think Franz brought this to our attention that with a lot of the development out in Hillsborough and in North Plains, we're going to see a lot of these ancient oak trees, which happen to like the same space that developers do, are going to be subject to coming down. And I think that's something that we want to look at about how to protect these several hundred-year-old oak trees if possible. Tree keepers had a meeting with the Hillsborough arborist. There's a new arborist, and she is very much in favor of coming up with the heritage tree program and protecting a lot of these. And so since Hillsborough's going to be a major place that could be developed for data centers and like battery centers, this may be another way to do that. So if anybody sees any ancient oaks or a land use permit that involves a big oak, we want to put that information together and maybe put something to show to the commissioners about, not the commissioner, but the staff, of how to protect
Is
them.
that the Hillsborough Forest, or the Hillsborough Forester?
Yeah, Hillsborough now has an urban forester, and she's very much interested in increasing the tree canopy, as is the city of Hillsborough. And so they've been doing things like tree inventory and a lot of things. So she doesn't have everything put together. But the story we hear from, I hear from all the different municipalities and from the county government and different agencies, is that nobody is able to monitor and enforce any of these wonderful tree codes.
Yeah.
Or SNR codes. And so that's something we probably need to long-term look at. But those are two things that, in addition to what Mary Lee was talking about, is we need to get the two groups, land use and SNR, agreement on what we're doing.
Thanks, Fran.
I saw some of you at the development forum.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. I did have fun asking my question about goal 5 to the city managers, and there was a giant pause and silence that none of them have looked at their comprehensive plan and done anything to do anything for their goal 5, whether it's trees or historical building or anything. It was a dead silence across, I don't know, what were there, 7 or 8 cities there represented. It was pretty bad.
I think it's kind of sad to hear a commissioner say that Oregon's goals, land use goals, are outdated, because it's what makes Oregon Oregon, and it's what makes us want to live here. And our institutional memory of what Oregon is about seems to be dying.
It was goal 1.
Well,
that was
goal 1, but the whole entire land use package,
right,
to me, is what makes Oregon Oregon. That we're not Nevada, we're not Las Vegas, we're not Burbank.
And the problem is that you have all those commissioners come from an urban area. You do not have one rural voice anymore to even have a memory of what it meant to protect our forests, our farms, our water sources, our fishing and hunting, all the things that we did all those years ago, that it's not on their agenda.
Well, and so much of the campaign funding comes from the development and real estate community.
Oh, tell me about it. Running my campaign has been really interesting, let me tell you. Being a rural voice, there's all my friends have $5.
Bruce, I do want to share the experience we had with the CPO1 October meeting. I don't know if there's time.
Well, Paul has had his hand up. Are you serious this time?
I was serious before, but apparently my headphone was interfering with the microphone.
We can hear you now.
Well, I'm glad you can. I just want to say I go along with Mary's suggestion about a committee, but I'm thinking one of the things should be important about goals is that if you're going to satisfy a goal, one of the ways to do it is partition it into smaller, easier to implement goals. And I don't think there's been any discussion in that respect. I think when I came into this program in the first place, there was all about following a protocol when it comes to what you submit and how you conduct yourself. Well, I'm thinking that if you're going to satisfy a goal, there should be a requirement that for everything negative you put out, you have to put something positive out. or you're not going to be heard. And I think it's just a matter of policy.
Okay, I tend to agree. So
Should
here
we
we
be
are.
putting
We got,
Mary, wait, should we put Mary's recommendation out to a vote about forming a subcommittee, or is it too early?
Hmm.
and what state the purpose of the subcommittee?
To
That's what I'm
evaluate,
trying to say.
to evaluate citizen involvement activities.
When I was on the MCCI, the Metro Committee for Community Involvement, we had various Metro departments coming to us to present their initiatives and ask us what would be, give us a capsule of their ideas on what community involvement would be, and ask us for suggestions, ways to reach out, topics to cover. And I mean, I've never seen anything like that in Washington County. I think what Mayor's talking about is evaluating things after the fact, as if we have no prayer of evaluating programs beforehand, which at this point I don't see that we do, but at least maybe giving some reports afterwards would be informative. I think
Well,
it's a good idea.
there would need to be quite a bit of like investigative journalism actually involved in understanding how public participation was planned and designed and carried off. And Mary?
So should we actually write a letter at this point saying we feel that there's been failure, you know, with this case, and this case? We have been identified in goal 1 to be the organization that should be evaluating community engagement. And, you know, nobody asked our advice. And we can use these 3 situations as failure to do adequate community engagement.
So are we coming down on a motion where we give Mary the responsibility of writing the draft of this letter?
Well, you know, what do people think? Is it better to actually try to move the needle forward to take on the responsibility for evaluating community engagement activities?
I think it's something to kick around, and let's discuss this offline and come back to the next CCI meeting with a proposal.
Sounds good to me. Let's talk about it at steering.
Yeah.
You know,
I was thinking about what Jason said tonight about people coming and presenting something without, what was his words, having like the right factual information or something that you could make a decision on. I'm maybe not paraphrasing him properly. You know, as opposed to emotional, I guess, something that you could make a decision off of, he said.
Actual criteria.
So yeah, so maybe do we need to look at these incidences for better or for worse and show how the communication went so that they have the data they need to make a decision?
Community engagement is a line item in a lot of development applications, but it's all pretty pro forma. It's not like they plumb the depths of community and attitudes. They just pro forma say, "Oh, we had a meeting, we had an open house."
Well, in LUT for road projects actually has a community engagement plan. They have not been following that.
I see.
And
does anybody know how access and opportunity applies to us?
They didn't know where else to put us.
Yeah.
What does that mean in relationship to what we're doing?
Well, be aware that
Politically correct word salad.
It just,
once the
Thank you.
modernization,
I wasn't, I was trying not to be rude.
once the modernization program actually wraps up at some point in the future, we will have a context to answer some of those questions. Right now, things are in such flux that uh, essentially, in listening to Jason talk, it was like whatever our bylaws say at this point is kind of immaterial. That the program is 40 years old. We just need to modernize it. And so, um,
Minimize it.
um, until we actually have some proposals from the county as to how the system is going to transform, there really isn't much of we don't have really a foothold to do anything really. I mean, it's like, what are we doing?
Okay,
We're
but
having our CPO
Bruce,
meetings.
Bruce, we have goal 1 that says CCI shall be the organization to evaluate community engagement.
That's in the current CCI bylaws.
It's in our bylaws, but it's also in goal 1. It states in goal 1 that is the role of CCI.
Right.
And until goal 1 is overturned by the state, it's the law.
And, we could go to the board with that. We've got a rule right here that says CCI shall do this. So why aren't you letting us do it?
So just move forward and do it anyway.
Is there time for me to quickly summarize what happened with our meeting?
What about the October meeting?
Yeah. So we were given the program by HHS. We had almost no input into it. I didn't even know who the presenters were going to be until a few days before the meeting. That was fine. We were happy to have the opportunity to bring that information to our neighbors. We always have a selection of our community service providers speaking at the beginning of the meeting. We almost always do something for the upcoming election, and we have a bond levies coming up on the ballot in November. And even though there was a joint meeting coming up towards the end of October, and CPO7 was having some presentations, we felt it was really important to give our members a chance to learn a little bit about the levies at our meeting. And so we'd been told that HHS did not want to share the program with anybody. And so I thought, oh, that's okay. We will just have brief input from our community service provider, the library, and our community service provider, the sheriff's office, as part of that introductory part of our meeting. And I could cover your ears if you want, but the first time we were told, oh, the communications team doesn't have time to provide speakers. We already have the speakers lined up. Peter Leonard from the library and our sheriff's office representative. So that wasn't a valid argument. And after I went back with that, they said, oh, but it's confusing. The library hasn't been on your list of community service providers. But they, okay, so they haven't been in the past. It'll be confusing to people. And these excuses just didn't make any sense to us. And so we persisted, and I reached out to the county administrative and to our commissioners. And what do you know? We got permission to have those short presentations on the levy. But it was and in the greater sense of things, it might have seemed trivial, but it felt, my goodness, Bruce, what's going on there?
And I want to end this meeting, and I'm
Okay.
shooting the, so
Anyway, it felt important for me and for CPO1 to snatch back that least tiny bit of autonomy that we could at least plan that part of our program.
I think that there was more misunderstanding involved in that than was apparent.
Well, and I had a chance to speak with Commissioner Treese, who said that her impression was that HHS was guiding that. And I don't know where HHS comes off telling a CPO what it can have in its program.
No, they're saying what they are prepared to tell us.
Yeah,
and
but
so there is no obligation that any county, that any municipality gives us raw information before they are comfortable with the
I'm not talking about the HHS presentation. I'm talking about our ability to choose what community service provider that we have at our meeting.
I think there was some misunderstanding and miscommunication is what I'm taking away from that. Because in the
Well, there
end,
was certainly some miscommunication.
yes. Okay, so are we going to end on that note, or does somebody have something happy to share?
Well, I'm happy we got what we needed, and we were able to bring our members the information that they needed. And I hope they all vote for those levies.
Okay, so we have a steering committee meeting tomorrow at 11 o'clock. I can hardly wait. It's the web link is on the county website. I think we gave Jason a pretty good sort of set of input on the variety of feelings that are present here.
Mm.
And so mission accomplished, kids. I think we did another meeting. Public
And I had
participation.
big black bear cross my land just for fun.
Bruce, can you give us a brief on what the agenda will be for the steering?
Well, it will be, what are we going to do for our next meeting? And we might kick around the evaluate the public process proposal a little bit more. That sounds exhausting to me. And if it's not in our purview when we're modernized,
they can't take it away without changing state law. They need to comply with state law.
So maybe the planning commission covers it. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't.
Planning commission has never evaluated public engagement.
Maybe Acre will do it.
I'd be happy to give it to them.
Yeah.
They'd have a purpose then.
What does ACRE stand for?
Advisory Committee for Racial Equity.
Advisory Council.
Council?
Council.
Is that even allowed in this day and age?
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't had to change
Advisory Council?
Racial equity.
I mean, you put that word racial in anything and you're in trouble.
You're just causing division. It
Totally.
is just divisive. There's nothing creative about it.
They'll lose federal funding.
I know it.
No, it's just the other way around now. If they keep it, they will lose it. The federal government does not want that language anymore. It's useless.
The federal government is,
and it's not just racial equity, because they are also including people with disabilities.
Yeah.
On the committee. So
they need to rename it then.
They do.
Right.
I'm just so proud of MIT. I'm so proud of MIT. They sent the federal government a letter saying, guess what? We don't want your federal funding.
I move we adjourn.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, kids. It's a meeting.
Okay.
Thanks, Bruce.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
99.
Thank you, mañana.
Bye.